Peace and shalom, Israel. Before we start the lesson, hit the notification button because we upload lessons every week and I don't want you to miss a single one of them. Like, comment, subscribe, and if there's a topic you would like for us to cover, we'll see what we can do. So until next time, cue the music. All praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace to everyone joining me on this program. This is the Fountain of Israel's Bible Studies program. And as always, it's an honor for me to stand before you on the Lord's holy Sabbath day. Now, this is part 2 of our lesson, Season of the Heathen. Season of the Heathen. And in that first part, if you did not watch, I was dealing with Halloween and Thanksgiving, and we kind of went into the background and went to some resources so you guys can get a clear understanding of these pagan holidays that most of the world celebrates. They actually do it with a lot of fervor and a lot of spirit and a lot of vigor and a lot of zeal. So I wanted to go ahead and pump the brakes for a minute and give you guys an opportunity to kind of look at some of those things, to kind of look up some of the resources there. If you didn't watch part 1, I would encourage you to watch that before watching this one. Obviously, both lessons can stand alone because we're talking about different, holidays. And I just wanted to deal with the big ones, like the 4 big ones. I mean, a lot of them, you check the origins of the rest of these holidays and you'll be shocked. You will be surprised, because they really have some questionable origins, some downright wicked origins. And then hopefully you'll say, you know what, sign me out. I tap out. I'm out. I'm done. So hopefully that's the kind of conclusion that you come to, but to each his own. It's up to you. I cannot force you to do it. All I can do is lead you to the water. I cannot make you drink. So with that, I want to give you part 2 of this, and we're going to deal primarily with Christmas and Easter's. And these two are the biggest of all. These two are the ones where all the world is amazed and astonished. So we want to deal with Christmas and Easter, and of course I read a lot from various resources, and you guys don't get as many scriptures as we're used to, but sometimes we have to step outside the scriptures and to just investigate and see what's going on in the rest of the world. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why did you do what you were doing when you were younger or when you were in ignorance? Okay, so let's take a look at that. This is one of my annual lessons. We have our feast day lessons every year, and a few of my lessons they're going to come around every year. The Black History from the Bible, which I usually and typically release in in February, forgive me. And then we have obviously the feast day lessons that comes around every year. This is one of those lessons that I'm going to teach pretty much every year, right? So we have some annual lessons here. And with that, we're going to go ahead and pick up and talk about Christmas to begin with. Now, one of the resources that I read, it reads this way. Let's see, I can get into some of the sources, which some of them are Encyclopedia Britannica and things like that. It says, every year after Thanksgiving, most people's thoughts turn to Christmas. It is the time when professing Christians are supposed to focus on Jesus Christ. After all, it is the Christ Mass season, correct? Now, if you are a Christian, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to. If you're Christian, if you are, the Sunday, the modern day Christian, the Sunday Christian, then you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do Christmas. You're supposed to do Easter. That's what you do. But if you're a Bible believer or an actual Christ follower, then you're not supposed to do this. So let's just keep that in mind. Okay, Christmas is thought by most to be a wonderful time, focusing the participants on giving, family togetherness, beautiful music and decorations, feasting on special foods, and singing Christmas carols throughout the neighborhood, as And I did that too when I was younger too. Some of this stuff anyway. All of this is supposedly centered around the worship of Christ. Surely the Bible instructs us to do all of this, right? Why do people think that Christmas is wonderful? Most never reflect on why they believe what they believe or do what they do. We live in a world filled with customs, but few ever seek to understand their origin. We generally accept them without question. Most people basically do what everyone else does because it is easy and natural. I said that in the last lesson. We just go along. I can't blame you when you were a child. I can't blame you. You just did whatever your parents had you do, and you did whatever everyone else was doing. Continuing. Let's carefully examine the roots of Christmas. Let's look at why people follow the customs associated with it. Why is it kept on December 25th? Did the early New Testament church keep it? Okay, this is an article, right? And this article is filled with facts from history that, when placed together, paint a complete picture. Let's avoid all assumptions and only accept what can be proven. That's why I chose to go through this article in some of these resources here, because we just want to go with what we can prove. Nearly all aspects of Christmas observance have their roots in Roman custom and religion. Consider the following admission from a large American newspaper, the Buffalo News, and this was from November the 22nd, 1984, right? It said the earliest reference to Christmas being marked on December 25th comes from the 2nd century after Jesus' birth. It is considered likely the first Christmas celebration where in reaction to the Roman Saturnalia, a harvest festival that marked the winter solstice, the return of the sun, and honored Saturn, the god of sowing. Saturnalia was a rowdy time, much opposed by the more austere leaders among the still minority Christian sect. Christmas developed, one scholar says, as a means of replacing worship of the sun with worship of the S-O-N rather than the S-U-N. By 529 AD, after Christianity had become the official state religion of the Roman Empire, Emperor Justinian made Christmas a civic holiday. The celebration of Christmas reached its peak, some would say its worst moments, in the medieval period, when it became a time for conspicuous consumption and unequaled revelry. Okay, so this is how we're going back centuries. People go way back centuries of how we got to where we are today. Let's continue to look a little bit more. Consider these quotes from the Catholic Encyclopedia, the 1911 edition, under Christmas. Okay, Christmas was not among the earliest festivals of the church. Are we understanding this? The first evidence of the feast is from Egypt. Further, pagan customs centering around the January calendar gravitates to Christmas. Under natal day, Origen, an early Catholic writer, admitted, in the scriptures, no one is recorded to have kept a feast or held a great banquet on his birthday. It is only sinners like Pharaoh and Herod who make great rejoicings over the day in which they were born into this world. Okay. The Encyclopedia Americana, the 1956 edition, adds, Christmas was not observed in the first centuries of the Christian church, since the Christian usage in general was to celebrate the death of remarkable persons rather than their birth. A feast was established in memory of this event. Christ's birth in the 4th century is the fifth in Christ's birth in the 4th century. In the 5th century, the Western Church ordered the feast to be celebrated forever on the day of the Mithriac rite of the birth of the sun, the S-U-N, and at the close of Saturnalia. Has no certain knowledge of the day of Christ's birth existed. There's no knowledge that we don't know the exact day. Kind of have a season, but we don't have the exact day of when he was born. They just arbitrarily just pick that, okay, to combat Saturnalia, so on and so forth. It was 300 years after Christ before the Roman Church kept Christmas. 300 years after Christ, okay, before the Roman Church kept Christmas, and not until the 5th century that it was mandated to be kept throughout the empire as an official festival honoring Christ. Okay, so this whole thing, let's put Christ back in Christmas. Do I even have to finish that thought? Didn't celebrate it for 300-400 years, and then mandated in the 5th century. And we still don't know the day he was born. And there's no instruction that we should celebrate his birthday. The day of death, according to the scriptures, is better than the day of one's birth. But all these traditions, but no proof. Any prophet, any apostle celebrating what we call Christmas. None of this. And yet, we're still doing it. Let's go ahead, or they are still doing it. But let's go ahead and look at when he was born, right? Or this idea, okay? So the question is, was Christ born on December 25th? And I know sometimes I say Christ, people, they start itching and breaking out in hives. If you want to say Yeshua, that's fine, okay? Yehoshua, that's fine, all right? But you get who I'm talking about. Christ was born in the fall of the year. Many have mistakenly believed he was born around the beginning of winter, December 25th. They are wrong. Notice the Adam Clark Commentary, Volume 5, page 370, New York edition. It was custom among Jews to send out their sheep to the deserts about the Passover, which is early spring, and bring them home at the commencement of the first rain. The first rains began in early to mid-fall. Continuing with this same quote, he says this: during the time they were out, the shepherds watched them night and day. As the first rain began early in the month of March, which answers the part of our October and November, begins sometime in October, we find that the sheep were kept out in the open country during the whole summer. And as these shepherds had not yet brought home their flock, it was a presumptive argument that October had not yet commenced, and that, consequently, our Lord was not born on the 25th of December when no flocks were out in the field, nor could he have been born later than September as the flocks were still in the field by night. On this very ground, the nativity in December should be given up. The feeding of the flocks by night in the fields is a chronological fact. Okay? And it's you can see the quotation in Talmudist in Lightfoot, okay? Is a chronological fact. If we pay attention to what was going on, he was not born in the dead of winter. And even if you knew when he was born, it doesn't tell us to celebrate that. And if he wanted us to know, the disciples went with him how long? They fellowshiped with Christ how long? Class? So, during that 3.5 years, could they not have asked one time, any of the 12, hey, when's your birthday? Luke 2:8. Luke 2:8. Let's look at this. Luke 2:8. It says, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. Is that not exactly what we just read in the article above? That's exactly what we just read. Because see, the Hebrew culture, they did things according to moeds, according to appointed time, and according to seasons. They did things, they operated in conjunction with nature and their environment. They did things in conjunction with that. In winter, they did certain things. In spring, they did certain things. In fact, their whole calendar was completely different. The Hebrew New Year is in the spring. It's not in the dead of winter, January 1st. It's not that. That's a Roman New Year, not Hebrew. It's completely different. When we're talking about like time of day, okay, the days start in evening, from evening to evening, not at midnight. A new day is not at midnight, in the middle of the night. Sun goes down, okay, new day. Easy. People, we have to reconsider. We have to shift our paradigm. We have to at least consider that maybe what we were taught was wrong. Maybe what we thought we knew was an error. is in error. Maybe, just maybe, it's not too late to re-examine all that I think I know. Ezra chapter 10. Ezra chapter 10, I want to pick it up at verse 9, if you will. It says, "Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month, and on the 20th day of the month. And all the priests sat in the street of the house of God, trembling because of this matter, and for the great rain, And Ezra, the priest, stood up and said unto them, Ye have transgressed and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel. Now therefore make confession unto the Lord God of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wives. Then all the congregation answered and said with a loud voice, As thou hast said, so must we do. But the people are many, and it is a time of much rain, and we're not able to stand without or be outside. Neither is this a work of one day or two, for we are many that have transgressed in this thing." See, this is the time of rain. We can't be outside. This is getting past summer, guys. Okay, so we have an idea of the time of year. We have an idea of the season. We get an idea. All we have to do is pay attention. All we have to do is pay attention. Now let's look. Numerous encyclopedias plainly state that Christ was not born on December 25th. The Catholic Encyclopedia directly confirms this. In all likelihood, Christ was born in the fall. A lengthy technical explanation would prove this point. Since we now know that December 25th was nowhere near Christ's actual birthday, where did the festival associated with this date come from? So let's see where this whole idea of December 25th, where did it come from? Where did it come from? Now, read this quote on the Christmas in the Roman world. The Saturnalia, December 17th, was a time of merrymaking and exchanging of gifts. December 25th was also regarded as the birth date of the Iranian mystery god Mithra, the Sun of righteousness, the Son of Righteousness. On the Roman New Year, January 1st, houses were decorated with greenery and lights, and gifts were given to children and the poor. To these observances were added the German and Celtic Yule rites, when the tectonic tribes penetrated into Gaul, Britain, and Central Europe. Food and good fellowship, the Yule log and Yule cakes, greenery and fir trees, gifts and greetings all commemorated different aspects of this festive season. Fires and light, symbols of warmth and lasting life, have always been associated with the winter festival, both pagan and Christian. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica, 15th edition, volume 2, page 903. That's where you can find this. I want you to see how these things, when we were talking about in the first lesson, drunken with the wrath of her fornication and all this, the fornication is dealing with all these different traditions, dealing with all these different gods and all these different rites, all these different customs, and just blending it all together until you get what we get now. If we go out another 1,000 years in the future, there's going to be a lot of things we do today will carry over until 1,000 years from now. And then they're going to add more along the way. More pagan this, more pagan that, more tradition this, more tradition that. That's what we do. But we never go back to the book. We never go back to the Bible. We never strip away all this pagan stuff. We still go whoring after other gods. We never go strip all that other stuff away and say, wait, hold on a minute. Let's open up Torah and see what he wants us to do. Let's go to the prophet and the apostles and see what they want us to do. We don't do that. Rarely do the average person even do that. We have instruction, we have an idea of what we should do, but the question is, are we going to do it? Is that going to get done? Let's continue. A final quote about the selection of December 25th as the birth date of Christ is necessary. Note an article in the Toronto Star, December 1984, by Alan Edmonds, entitled "We Owe a Lot to Druids, Dutch." Okay, so this is where you can find this information. The Reformation cast a blight on Christmas. By then, of course, clever ecclesiastical politicians had adopted the pagan midwinter festival as the alleged birth date of Jesus of Nazareth, and thrown in a few other pagan goodies to make their takeover more palatable. That's a quote from there. These things, this is what's been done. So we're doing all these things that, oh, well, it doesn't mean this to me. It doesn't mean that to me. Well, I'm not going to worship, this other God. I'm not going to bow down to a tree. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. You can package it, repackage it, repurpose it. You can say all you want. You can put perfume on a skunk, it's still a skunk. You can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. A rose by any other name is still the same. It's the same thing dressed up in a different costume over the centuries. So the question is, are you going to continue to try to fool yourself into thinking it's okay, it's no big deal? Or you're going to have a massive paradigm shift and say, wait a minute, well, I'm thinking of this, it's all wrong. December 25th was not selected because it was the birth of Christ or because it was even near it. It was selected because it coincided with the idolatrous pagan festival Saturnalia, and this celebration must be carefully examined. In any event, we do not know the exact date of Christ's birth. While God certainly could have made it known, he chose to hide it from the world's eye. He could have very easily, that's the example that I gave, he could have very easily said at any point in time. Couldn't the Bible fit one more line if needed be? And I'm not saying add anything, I'm saying at the time in the original. You can make the Bible, the Most High could have made the Bible as long as he wanted to. He could have added that line in there, hey, this is when my birthday, this is when the Messiah is born and all that. He could have said that, but he didn't. Could have had a few lines about how the disciples celebrated, or the prophets, hey, he's going to be born on this particular day. All it said was he's going to be born in the Old Testament. It's one of those things that when truth comes to light, it can be a head scratcher as to how people receive it, as how they look at it. Are they going to accept it, or are you going to accept it? Let's keep going in Deuteronomy chapter 4. Let's get some scriptures in here. Deuteronomy chapter 4, and I want to start at verse 10. It says, "Especially the day that thou stoodest before the Lord thy God in Horeb, when the Lord said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children." This is what we should be doing, brothers and sisters. Keep that in mind. Okay, don't fall asleep on that. Wake up, Jacob. This is what we should be doing. We do it and teach our children. Okay? "And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire, and ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice. And he declared unto you this his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments. And he wrote them on 2 tables of stone. And the Lord commanded me at the time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might do them in the land whither ye go over to possess it. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire." That means you just trusted his voice since you didn't see a physical form at the time. Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make ye a graven image, the similitude of any figure in likeness of a male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. Okay? Unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God has divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. Look at he doesn't want us to have any idolatry, any paganism whatsoever. Look at the things he's giving examples. He said, I don't want you to do any of this. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. He gets very specific. He said, you didn't see in a similitude. You didn't see a shape, form, anything. You didn't see anything physical like that, okay? You were thunders, lightnings, clouds, that's it, right? But he's telling us, he said, if I back up, he said, lest you corrupt yourselves, okay? So now you're going to commit a sin. Corrupt yourself and make ye a graven image, the similitude, the likeness of any figure, likeness of male and female. So any images of God looking like a man or a woman? No, you don't do that, okay? The likeness of any beast that is on the earth. In some cultures, people use certain images in the Bible. The God may be described kind of like an ox or whatever. You know how he likens himself to something like that. But he didn't want us to make an image after it, because that's what we do. Well, I've said in many lessons, if you've been with this ministry for any length of time, we're made to worship. We're going to worship. We're going to worship. It's going to happen. It's in you. He put eternity in your heart. He puts this whole idea that something is bigger than you. Something out there is bigger than us. He puts that in your heart. He puts something out there is bigger. And we're going to find some way, some conduit to worship. It's going to happen. But he said, since he knows he's going to do that, he said, no likeness of a male, no likeness of a female, don't do it. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, no, don't do it. The likeness of any winged fowl that flies in the air, don't do it. Don't worship it. Now, in this line, he didn't say anything about angels, but again, don't worship them either. John in Revelation bowed down, about to worship this the angel. The angel said, no, don't do that. Worship God. Don't worship me. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground. Nothing that creepeth on the ground. The likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. Okay? And yeah, there's water beneath the earth, so relax. It's okay. Don't make any of these images. He wants you to trust his voice, to trust it. In this case, trust what we're reading. Do you trust it? Do you trust his voice? If a pastor's telling you something that thus says the Lord, do you trust that? I'm asking you to follow along with me. I'm telling you exactly what I'm reading from, am I not? I'm breaking it down properly. Here a little, there a little. See, I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you can you trust the word that's written? The book that's right in front of you. Do you trust what it says? Do you not believe it is the word of the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Do you not believe that? Then you trust what he says. You have to be about it. You have to live it. You have to internalize. You have to get this inside of you, in your head and in your heart. It has to be a part of you. I'm not saying just memorizing scriptures and stuff like that. We know there's plenty of people who can memorize scriptures word for word, line for line, and they don't believe any of it. But if you live it, that's going to be your proof that you believe it. And he said, of any likeness that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, and lest you lift up your eyes unto the heavens, look at the stars and the moons and the angels and all that, and when thou seest the sun, S-U-N, and the moon, like I said, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldst thou be driven to worship them. You're going to worship them, and you're going to serve them, which the Lord thy God has divided unto all the nations under the sun. Some people, they read, they love, astrology and things like that. And we know that, it's about reading the stars and what it says. And what people do, they go read their astrological report. They go read it. Oh, I'm this sign, that sign. And oh, today I'm going to do this and do that. Oh, today's going to be a good day. Today I'm going to make a bold decision. Today I'm going to quit my job and find another. And people start following it. They just start following that stuff. Now, are we to use the sun, the moon, the stars? Yes. It's seasonal. They do certain things. They run along their circuits. They have a particular function. We're supposed to understand times and seasons by them. We're not supposed to worship them. Let's go to Exodus 34. Exodus 34 and 10. Exodus 34 and 10. And he said, behold, I make a covenant. Before all thy people I will do marvel, such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among which thou art shall see the work of the Lord, for it is a terrible thing that I will do with thee. Observe thou that which I command thee this day. Behold, I drive out before thee the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Take heed to yourself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. But ye shall destroy their altars, and break their images, and cut down their groves. Listen to that, people. For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. And they say, okay, come on over here. We're about to do Christmas. Come on, let's do it. We got some spiral ham. Come on, let's do it. This is good fellowship. Let's have a couple of drinks and, fellowship and just be family and make merry. He said, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. That's what they're inviting you over for Christmas dinner. Trust me. I used to be one of those people. Okay? Over a decade ago, I used to be one of those people. I went to everybody's house and got my plate. I had my Tupperware in the back of the car. I was ready. When I came, I'm getting my plate. I'm eating. I'm going to eat, talk, chit chat, all that. And boom, I'm going to go to the next house. Oh, I was a pro. I was a professional. I'm telling you right now, I had my stuff ready to go. And everyone already understood it. They already knew. They already knew what I was going to do. I'm going to come. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. We're going to, rub elbows and laugh and yuck it up. And I'm going to eat something while I'm there. I'm going to make a plate. Boom. And I let you know ahead of time. I said, well, hey, I got to make my rounds. And that's what my holidays were. That's how it was. I was efficient. I was good. I was efficient. I got it done. I had leftovers for a week or two. Let someone call me and say, hey, come get it. Hey. It wasn't the holidays until I rolled through. That's how good I was at. I was proficient. He said, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods all the food, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice, and thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a-whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a-whoring after their gods. Thou shalt make thee no molten images. How many times? We meet people and they have a different background, different, religious belief, religious leaning, male or female. Okay, you're on a particular path, and then all of a sudden you fall for somebody else, and they're just a little bit different, and then you try to blend it. And the dominant one, whoever it is, be it male or female, the dominant one is going to twist, turn, and manipulate and cause the other to genuflect for another god, to capitulate and acquiesce to their way of living, to how they worship. You didn't used to do those things, but this other person coming to your life and now you're doing it. Does that sound familiar, anyone? This happens every time. Man hooks up with a woman, somebody is changing. Somebody is going to change. Thou shalt make thee no molten gods. Don't serve these other gods. It's one of the reasons why the Most High didn't want the men of Israel to go with strange wives. But I'm talking about wives who go after and serve other gods, have these other customs, and they want to do all these other things, right? Modern day, if they have a different belief system than you, have a different belief system than Torah observance, okay, and believing in the Messiah, they got something different than that, you probably shouldn't be with them. Now, if they're turning around, let them start turning around first. But they're going to influence you. These women are going to influence you. Now, if you're a daughter of Jacob, listen. You do the same thing. If you're a daughter of Jacob and you believe, and this other guy is not on board, he is not Torah observant, Messianic, he's not about that, then you don't deal with him. Because he's going to turn you away. It will turn the other. That's the whole reason why you have the scriptures that, be not unequally yoked. Has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with what you believe and what you do. Because anybody can serve the Most High. Just serve him. Let's look at this Christmas tree. And we're going to look at the origins of the Christmas tree, right? Let's look at this a little bit. It said, no article about Christmas is complete without an examination of the Christmas tree. Right, we can't talk about Christmas and then not at least mention the Christmas tree. So let's look at it. We have touched on this without directly focusing on it. The modern Christmas tree originated in Germany. Look at how we just grab stuff from everywhere, okay? Celtic and Welsh and Roman and German. Everywhere. But the Germans got it from the Romans, who got it from the Babylonians and the Egyptians. Hello. The following demonstrates what the Babylonians believed about the origins of the Christmas tree. An old Babylonian tale told of an evergreen tree which sprang out of a dead tree stump. The old stump symbolized the dead Nimrod. The new evergreen tree symbolized that Nimrod had come to life again in Tammuz. That's his resurrection. Among the Druids, the oak was sacred. Among the Egyptians, it was the palm tree. And in Rome, it was the fir tree, which was decorated with red berries during the Saturnalia. Walsh, The Curiosities of Popular Customs, on page 242. Frederick J. Haskins answers the question and states, the Christmas tree is from Egypt, and its origins date from a period long anterior to the Christmas era. Did you know this, that the Christmas tree long preceded Christianity? Did you know it? Did you know that? You got that, right? Just adopt. That's what it is. That's that fornication, that the great whore, this whole system, that's what it does. It just grabs all these different things. You look at the fourth beast, right? And it compared it to a hodgepodge of different things, where the first three, this one's like a bear, this one's like a leopard, and all, Well, the fourth one is just, it's an amalgam of so many different things, and we're jumping all over to different cultures. Oh, I like that. It's like a cafeteria plan. I like that. Let's do that. We're gonna do that one. Oh, you do that one. Oh, okay, that looks fun. Let's do that. Oh, give me some of this. Give me some of that. That's good too. It's a freaking cafeteria plan. It says most aspects of Christmas are not referred to in the Bible. Of course, the reason is that they are not from God. They are not part of the way. He wants people to worship him. The Christmas tree, however, is directly mentioned in the Bible. And we're going to get to that over in Jeremiah. We'll get to that. Okay? I'll read it when I get over there. I'll read it then. Okay, but it's in the Bible. This plain description, when we go there, of the modern Christmas tree is clear. God directly refers to it as the way of the heathen. Just as directly, he commands his people to learn not the way of the heathen, calling these customs vain, for nothing, worthless, does not profit you. It's for nothing. Okay, verse 23 adds a remarkable and profound statement. O Lord, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walks to direct his own steps. God must teach people how to live. Man simply cannot figure out God's way for himself, and we cannot. We try, because what happens is we run the risk of doing our own thing. We run the risk of making it up as we go, making it up on the fly. That's what we do. We just make it up on the fly, based on how we feel, based on what other people think. We don't want to be ostracized. We don't want to be, pointed out. We don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. We don't want to look different. We don't want to be embarrassed. We want to be mocked, derided, ridiculed, chided. We don't want to be any of these things. We don't want the shame. We don't want to feel left out. Need I go on? Ezekiel 8 and 10. Don't worry, we're going to get to Jeremiah here in a second. But Ezekiel 8 and 10. He said, earlier it did mention Tammuz, right? So Ezekiel 8 and 10, the reason is, so I went in and I saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts. This is when the Most High grabbed Ezekiel and told him, come over here, let me show you a couple things. And all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about, all over the walls, all these images and all these pagan things, right? And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jehazaniah, the son of Saphron, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery? For they say, the Lord seeth us not. The Lord has forsaken the earth. Okay, we know that not to be true. He said also unto me, turn ye yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Look at what they ask in Ezekiel. Let me show you this. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. So we saw the articles talking about Tammuz. Resurrected pagan custom, this whole coming back, dying in the winter and coming back. The enemy has a cheap imitation of the truth. A cheap imitation. Now let's go to Jeremiah. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 10. Let's look at something real quick. Jeremiah chapter 10, it says, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Now, it says in verse 2, thus said the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. Now, that is the most important statement right there, okay? That right there, you have to, if you remember nothing else, you have to remember this. Learn not the way of the heathen. Learn not the way of these other nations. Don't learn what they do. Don't do what they do. Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs in heaven. Okay, we know what the signs are in heaven. For the heathen are dismayed by them. Okay, now this is what I did. I played a game once before. I played a game. It's called charades. You guys know the game. You do that to people. People say, oh no, the Bible doesn't say anything about it. Just play this game of charades right here. Okay? And you show them what they're doing. You tell them to imagine what this is. Paint a mental picture in their mind. Paint it in their mind. It says, okay, what are we doing here? I'm playing charades. For the custom of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with an axe. So you just go ahead and do the axe motion. You walk on out to the forest. You start chopping. Oh, they know what you're doing, right? They deck it with silver and gold. And they fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. So it sits up straight, so it doesn't move, so it doesn't fall over. Okay? They are upright as the palm tree, because different cultures, the Christmas tree is a different kind of tree in different cultures. Okay? But speak not. The trees don't talk. They must needs be born, meaning they have to be moved. If you want to move, you got to move because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is them to do good. That means he's saying they can't do anything. It's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Their custom is vain. It means nothing. It's nothing. Go to 14. Every man is brutish in his knowledge. Every founder is confused by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity and the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. When the time comes, when time is up, guess what? All your Christmas trees are going to be burned, okay? All your graven images and all these symbols is going to be burned. It's gone. It's over. He told Israel to do that. You go in this other land, all this graven stuff, all this pagan stuff, all this idolatry stuff, burn it. Tear it down. Break it in pieces. Get rid of it. I don't want any of it. So what do you think he's going to do when he gets here? What do you think the Messiah is going to do once he gets here? Let's move on to Easter. Okay, Vine's complete expository dictionary of Old and New Testament words in its entry, Easter, states that the term Easter is not of Christian origin. It is another form of Astarte, one of the titles of the Chaldean goddess, the Queen of Heaven. The Bible mentions that too. The festival of Pasch, or Passover, held by Christians in post-apostolic time, was a continuation of the Jewish feast, Passover, right? From this Passover, the pagan festival of Easter was quite distinct and was introduced into the apostate Western religion. Hello, do you understand what just happened? Okay, Easter was supposed to replace Passover, right? As part of an attempt to adapt pagan festivals to Christianity, which is why I don't call myself Christian. I know what it actually is. W.E. Vine, 1985, okay? That's where we get it from. I know what it is. I know it's just Christ's follower. I would love to simply just say that, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I can't. I can't. Too many flavors of Christian. And I know Israel have their issues. I know that. But if I just live the Bible, you won't even have to ask me what I believe. Easter isn't a Christian or directly biblical term, but it comes from a form of the name Astarte, a Chaldean Babylonian goddess known as the Queen of Heaven. She is mentioned in the Bible in Jeremiah 7 and 18 and 44 and 17 through 19 and 25, and referred to in 1 Kings 11 and 5 and 33 and 2 Kings 23 and 13, if you want to see that, by the Hebrew form of her name, Ashtaroth. Okay, she's referred to as Ashtaroth. So Easter is found in the Bible as part of the pagan religion God condemns. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. Further, early Christians, even after the times of the apostles, continued to observe a variation of the biblical Passover feast. It differs because Jesus introduced new symbolism, as the Bible notes, Matthew 26, the bread, taking the bread, the wine and the bread. He kind of introduced that a little bit, even though Melchizedek also did it. Well, did it with Abraham. But he's just saying it's just new symbolism. But they still kept it. He said, therefore, let us keep the feast, right? And that's what they did. The Easter symbol predates Christ. How does the Catholic Encyclopedia defines Easter? The encyclopedia. Easter, the English term, according to the 8th century monk, relates to Estre, a Teutonic goddess of the rising light of day and spring, which deity, however, is otherwise unknown. 1909, volume 5, page 224. Estre is the ancient European name of the same goddess worshipped by the Babylonians as Astarte or Ishtar, goddess of fertility, whose major celebration was in the spring of the year. In the spring of the year, the subtopic Easter eggs tell us that the custom of Easter eggs may have its origins in paganism, for a great many pagan customs celebrating the return of spring gravitated to Easter. The subtopic Easter rabbits, okay, that was page 227 in that book. The subtopic Easter rabbit states that the rabbit is a pagan symbol and has always been an emblem of fertility. Author Greg Dews, in his book Catholic Customs and Traditions, elaborates on the symbolism of Easter in ancient pre-Christian cultures. The egg has become a popular Easter symbol. Creation myths of many ancient peoples center in a cosmogonic egg from which the universe is born. In ancient Egypt and Persia, friends exchanged decorated eggs at the spring equinox, the beginning of their new year. These eggs were a symbol of fertility for them because the coming forth of a living creature from an egg was so surprising to people of ancient times. Christians of the Near East adopted this tradition, and Easter eggs became a religious symbol. It's represented the tomb from which Jesus came forth to life. Wow, right? So that's what. So there you go. There you have with the eggs, right? But I'll give you a little bit more. As the Encyclopedia Britannica further explains, a final statement of the dispute over whether and when to keep Easter or Passover was one among the other reasons which led the Roman governor Constantine to summon the Council of Nicaea in 325. The decision of the council was unanimous that Easter was to be kept on Sunday and on the same Sunday throughout the world, and that none should hereafter follow the blindness of the Jews. This is on page 828 and 29 through 29, where it talks about how now you have Constantine instituting Christian paganism, and you can't follow the blindness of the Jews. It was mandated. He was the emperor. You couldn't do it now it's law, basically. Now it's law. Don't follow the blindness of the Israelites. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. We're going to do this Easter thing. Don't follow them Israelites. Don't know. But is the picture starting to become clear? Let's go to Matthew chapter 7. Let's start finishing up right here in Matthew chapter 7. We're going to go ahead and finish up right here. Matthew 7, and I'm going to start at verse 7. He said, "Albeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." Remember, it's a law now. "For laying aside the commandment of God," don't make any graven image, don't go after other gods, "ye hold the tradition of men," this is what we do, "as the washing of pots and cups and many other things like these ye do. And he said unto them, Full well you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your own traditions. Is that not what we do?" I'm going to drop the 13. He said, "Making the word of God of none effect through your tradition, which ye have delivered, and many such like things do ye." And that's what we do, brothers and sisters. That's what we do. We throw away what the scriptures say, and then we go ahead and we try to rationalize and do a lot of verbal gymnastics and mental gymnastics to get around what it actually says, and we just start saying, hey, we're going to just do this anyway. No. The truth been brought to light. You hear what the scripture says. You see what these resources says, and it says that, no, you shouldn't do these. You shouldn't do such things. It is folly. It is foolishness. But we enter in a season where that is exactly what people are about to do. Now, as far as the resources that I brought forth, it's merely the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that you can read on all of these holidays. The question is, do you have the testicular fortitude to do just that and do your research? Do you have the gumption to tell your family, hey, we're not doing this anymore? We're not. We're going to go the way of the Lord. I'm not doing it. Because that's how important it is to the Most High. So are you going to do it? What He says, or are you going to do what men say? Are you going to follow the way of the Lord or traditions of men? He already said the custom of the people. It's vain. It will not profit you anything. dragging that tree in your house, decorating it. Yeah, I know it feels good, but it profits you nothing. I know dyeing eggs and hiding them, having Easter egg hunts, and looking at all those smiles on the children's face. I understand it. Makes you feel good, but it profits you nothing. And we can go on and on and on, but you know what? I like to give it to you straight, no chaser. You have homework to do. And for some of you that are listening, this is simply confirmation. That's all. It's just confirmation of some things you've already known. But for those of you who are new, you have homework to do. You need to research. We need to search these scriptures. You need to do other researches with extra biblical resources and find out what is all this. And find out just how bad, just how severe the deception has been. This has been the season of the heathen. And I most certainly pray and hope that someone has been edified by this presentation. Do me a huge favor. Check the description box. Click the notification bell. Like, share, subscribe. And I'll see you on the next lesson. Shalom. Peace. Israel.